Welcome, everyone, to this episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken, the show that actually starts on time, a rarity here on YouTube, or at least with those who I stream. But the difference is that because it's a solo show, if I'm late, it's completely my fault, not because I'm waiting on someone to join. See, the only person I have to blame is myself if I'm not here on time. But tonight, we're going to be talking about red rings, see how many people remember the old red ring. And then we're also going to be talking about something that's being not reported on that I've seen. So we're going to react to two of those videos tonight. How is everyone doing? Let's get started, shall we? Okay, this one comes from Tuesday. Let me pull him up real quick. Actually plays nice. Okay, here we go. This video comes from Tuesday. Really good channel. He's the one reporting on this one because it doesn't seem to be being reported anywhere else. So this is good channel to follow. He does a lot of the YouTuber stuff. Not so much drama, but talking about those that have made stupid decisions for clout and have gotten arrested. So he's been covering things like the DoorDash girl. He actually went to her hearing and then reported live from it. He's Johnny Somali. He's gone over there to Korea and been in the courtroom during Johnny Somali being in the courtroom and is reported live from that. He's a good channel to follow. So the link to his channel is in the description, as well as a link to this video. So go give it a like, give it a watch. Let's get into it. Because, yeah, this is quite amazing what is going on.
You are currently looking at 200 million gallons of raw, untreated sewage flowing straight out into the Potomac River here right between Maryland and DC. This is an absolute disaster. It smells awful here.
Before we get any further, how you doing there, Mr. Scott? Awesome. Welcome. We're talking about poop in DC, which, I mean, come on. To be perfectly honest, poop is always in DC, right? It's, you don't call it a swamp for no reason.
Can't believe this is happening. This is one of the largest sewage spills in U.S. history, apparently. That's what the reports are saying. So it's safe to say the poop situation is crazy.
Well, you may be asking, what am I doing here? Well, our nation's capital had one of the largest sewage spills in U.S. history. What do we know? Well, on January 19th, a major sewer line in Montgomery County collapsed, and the wastewater is now entering the Potomac River while repair work is underway. Okay, so that's bad, but how bad is it? Well, days later, they're still working on it. So this thing is just free-flowing right into our river with not much stopping it. And the estimate...
That's gross. It didn't look that bad water quality wise, but there's no, that's got, I mean, his reaction to it just being outside of the fence line where it's actually coming out, but that just going right into the Potomac. I mean, that's the river going right past our nation's capital, and that is just leaking right in. That is, oh man, this is not good. I don't know. Again, it's not being reported on, which this just shocks me, especially with all of the environmental weirdos that are out there would be hopping up and down about the fact that that much raw sewage is being put right into a freshwater river. And then on top of it's going to be flowing right past Washington, D.C., which I can't imagine that's making Washington, D.C. smell any better of a city.
Are above 500 million gallons of sewage water has been poured out into the Potomac River. Awesome. And just to put this all into perspective, the Potomac Riverkeeper tested E. coli levels in the river, and it was found more than 11,000 times the safe limits near the spill, and 60 times the safe limits 4 miles downstream. Awesome. That's exactly what we needed. And since this wasn't really being talked,
even that far away from the source, and it's still that the river is going to take a while because, I mean, as that sewage is going, it's hitting the shoreline. It's going into the actual riverbed. That's not going away anytime soon. Even if they get it sealed up and it stops leaking in, the damage is done to that river. It's going to take a very long time for that to actually naturally clean itself and clear itself out. And if we have actually in that area ends up being much more of a drier summer, it's not going to be as much water flowing. I mean, from my area, granted, all the way on the other side of the country, we did not get the normal snowpack that we normally do in the mountains. So it's most likely we're going to have a really bad year for forest fires. So I now, granted, this is Washington, D.C. This year so far, what has the Midwest had? It's had a lot of snow that has come through, especially in the last month or so. You've had a really, really low temperatures. So, I mean, they may have a little bit of snow, but not enough to run off. And if anything, it's just going to cause flooding. So now all that sewage is now going to flow back into the river as well. Not a good situation for the residents that live in that area or are in proximity to the Potomac River. Hopefully they don't actually use the Potomac River for any kind of drinking water, but they probably do. And I'm surprised. I would not be surprised if they're on a boil notice or anything like that for tap water. Just because it's the sewage is not getting to the treatment plant and going right into the potential water source that they use for the city and for the citizens that live around the Potomac.
Talked about anywhere, and everyone I talked to it about hadn't even heard of it. I decided to go over there and check it out for myself.
All right, I thought this was going to be a really hard thing to find, but no, this is just right off the main road. There's clearly a lot of construction workers here.
All right, so it's Saturday, January 24th. We're about 4 hours till one of the worst blizzards in many decades are going to hit the Washington, D.C. area.
And so we're told that road crews are working around the clock to clear roads that still, man, look like this. But now, more than 2 days after the storm ended, some residents across the DMV say plows never came.
And I've traveled out here to DC to investigate the poop situation because currently, right now, one of the worst sewage spillages in U.S. history is happening right here in the Potomac River. So I just realized.
And that's, again, another reason why their local news has been reporting on it, but national did not even mentioning it whatsoever. So one of two things. They're trying to, the mainstream media doesn't want to report on it because they don't want to upset the greenies, or the fact that they don't want to take away focus from other things that they want to hammer Trump on. And since this isn't something that is the Trump responsibility of the administration in any kind of way, so they can't hammer it on Trump. So therefore, they're just going to let it slide. They're just going to let it pass, and they're not going to report on it. But something that's one of the biggest sewage spills in American history, and no one's talking about it. Now, a Tuesday is just because, again, he's just happened to see it. But again, no one's reporting on it. The only reason I know about it now is just because I ran across this video. But it's just unbelievable, the extent of the ecological damage that's going to be occurring to the Potomac River. And again, that's failing infrastructure.
I realized I'm now spending my Saturday looking for a poop leakage. Maybe some plumbers out there can relate to that. But last time I was freezing, so this time I bought some emergency gear because in upstate New York, I was too cold. So I went to CVS and bought some equipment that is not, what is this hat is 100% polyester.
So what he's referring to is when he went to upstate New York, that was for him sitting in the trial for the DoorDash girl. He did a video outside of the courthouse after the end of court that day. And so it was just freezing for him. And then on top of that, he was complaining because just previously he was down in the Miami area. There was another trial that he went to. I can't remember which one it was that he was doing in Miami, but he's like, yeah, major difference between Miami and then upstate New York.
That is so bad. That will not keep you warm. I mean, it will, but like not in actual cold weather. 100% polyester. Oh, come on. We need to sell some, like, at the minimum, sell some cotton. But like, wool needs to be more readily available here. But hey, I'll take what I can get for right now. Look at it.
Okay. It's like scary how not warm this actually is. This is gonna be cold. Cold, cold, cold. Okay. I just realized I probably should have brought a mask or something. It's like 18 Fahrenheit today. It's gonna get a whole lot colder as this blizzard approaches. And this is such a beautiful park as well. It's just a shame that we have one of the biggest sewage spills.
So let me move myself to a different part of the screen real quick. Oh, wrong button. So it says a catastrophic sewage spill described by officials as one of the largest in U.S. history is currently ongoing into the Potomac River. On January 19th, a sanitary sewer overflow collapsed in Montgomery County. See, again, it's failing infrastructure. Now, I don't know if they ever say what caused it to collapse, but again, being that part of the country, as old as it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just neglected infrastructure. Just a matter of time before something like that was going to occur anyway. So, very interesting.
In American history here. That's what at least the reports are saying. So my understanding is there's about 200 million gallons of sewage that have leaked out into this area over the past couple of days, with way more to come if it's not fixed immediately. Obviously, there was a full construction crew up there working on this.
Looks like a lot of trails I've hiked. One of my favorite items to do in the spring and in the fall is go out on these trails. My area is a desert. It's what's known as a cold desert. So I actually have to go a little further out to other areas to actually get a little bit of actually decent hiking in environments like this. Yeah, definitely. Probably not a bad place to normally do hiking.
So I'm sure they're trying their best, but wow. Okay, so I mean, I am smelling it right now as I'm walking this way. Oof. Oh, why did I not bring a mask? Oh, this is putrid. Oh, this smells awful. All right, so I'm standing here on the border between Maryland and Washington, D.C. And as you can see by some of the signage here, we have raw sewage running straight out into the Potomac. To be accurate, 200 million gallons of raw sewage has ran out in the Potomac River right here over the last couple of days, with a whole lot more on its way if it's not fixed as soon as possible. I probably should have brought some some basic equipment to protect myself from this, like a mask, maybe some plastic, what are they called?
He's talking about a mask. The only way to get rid of to cover up that smell is more than just wearing a mask. You're wearing a respirator at that point. I mean, wearing any kind of mask other than a respirator, you're gonna get that smell. And on top of that, just the whole, it even stinging your eyes. It's like you almost want a full, actual encompassing face mask with an actual purification input for taking it in. That's the closest and the only way you're really going to kind of combat the smell. You're just doing like any of the COVID masks that they forced a lot of people to try to wear. I always tried to just get cloth. I didn't really care, but to go out in public, had a kowtow just to be able to go out and actually get food and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. But the N1 masks, that's not going to protect you against smell. The medical masks that clearly stated on the package themselves said it was not going to protect you from COVID. Those definitely are not going to, because you need a tight seal around your skin from the masks to actually work properly. And on top of that, you actually need a filter, not just something to cover your face.
Footies that can remove us. I'm not carrying this into the car I have. I don't know. I just saw the biggest sewage leak, or potentially the biggest sewage leak in U.S. history, and I was like, well, we got to go cover that, because I still, there's no mainstream news outlets is actually covering this right now. From what I've seen, there's only been local DC news talking about this. This is literally one of the biggest leaks ever. This is crazy.
Now, granted, anytime there's hurricanes, natural disasters, or flooding that happens in the Midwest, granted, their sewage also does spill out, because, I mean, the water level just goes so high, and the sewage pipes are all underground, obviously below that, so they're going to seep up, they're going to mix in, That's why a lot of places after heavy floods and stuff, the city smells for a while, because it's not just like fresh water coming in from rain and the rivers and stuff like that. You have all of the sewage that is in that area as well. So when you're walking around a flooded area, city or otherwise, realize that you are walking through sewage. You're not just walking through a river that happened to overflow its banks. It's like, I wouldn't walk through any. Not wise to be walking through a flooded city, even if it isn't flooded that much, but it's still up to your ankles. Yeah, that you're walking in sewage. The sewage is overflowed. It is now out, and you're walking on it.
So it seems like a lot of the workers are going over there. So we'll check it out. It smells awful here. The closer I get over here, the worse it gets. I mean, that was like when I was down there earlier and it smelled completely putrid. I'm wondering if that is actually the sewage water and I was just at the end of it. That actually might be true, because I was at the end over there earlier. It smells awful. Awful. Hey, it is what it is.
Though much respect to these workers to have to sit there and work on that and constantly be smelling that. Again, you want to talk about the pay gap. You want to talk about the inequality of what women are being paid and stuff like that. How many women are signing up to do this job? Again, they always say, well, if we women go on strike, society will fall apart. No, if men were to stop working, society would fall apart. Because you're not going to see Instagram models going out there and fixing a sewage leak like that and having to reconstruct a collapsed sewage line.
Is it one massive leak or is it a whole bunch of leaks? You don't know? Okay. It smells awful. I feel like that could be one of the areas there. I'm trying to find the main section where the viral news was, because you saw it just spewing up outside there. Okay, so I can't tell if there's like one big leak or if there's multiple throughout the locks here going up, because you have a whole bunch of locks going up the river. And my understanding is the leak is happening between lock 10 and lock 14. But again, I don't know if it's one or multiple, because over at lock 10, it smelled like insane sewage. And then I'm walking past, I'm like close to 11 now, I think. And I didn't smell any sewage for a while. Now I'm starting to smell it again. So I don't know what's going on. Now again, oh my gosh, it's this. I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but
I will say this much. If something ever like that to happen around my area, I definitely would be grabbing my camera and do something like this, just to kind of investigate, especially if I'm not seeing it being picked up by even any news organizations that aren't local. As much as I would be definitely having problems with gag reflex with the smell, just to put it out there. Because I mean, how hard is it just to walk out on a trail and stuff like that with a camera and just and talk about it and actually go and see it? The one thing I won't do is go to protests. Sorry, not going to go do a protest to film. That's not something I'm going to do. I had thought of maybe doing videos and stuff like that. I take, during nicer weather, I do take a walk at lunch, because my fat ass needs to get moving every so often. So I've been thinking about doing videos that way, just to pre-record it and then upload it later. But a lot of events that happen that are like major impact in the environment and stuff like this, a lot of times seem to not get reported unless there is a political angle that they can try to hang it around someone else's neck. Being that it's not being covered and its proximity to Washington, D.C., the fact that if they can't tie it around, let's say, Trump's neck, then of course the news, more specifically left-wing media, is not going to even bring it up, because I mean, it's nothing that's going to harm Trump in any kind of way. So why even bring it up? Why even report on it? No point. And Republicans, I wouldn't be surprised. I'll look later, but maybe it's being reported on maybe foxnews.com, maybe on their website. there is that possibility that it's at least being reported there, but it's nothing that's actually making TV. How many people that are actually Fox News watchers are going to their website and checking out their news? I'm not. And of course, I'm not a Fox News watcher either, except for a few clips of Waters every so often or Gutfeld.
This also just smells awful. This is abysmal. That might be one of the leaks right there. Do you know if there's one leak or if it's multiple leaks going down?
I think it's one.
It's one big leak right here. Okay, thank you. This is between, okay, so this is at lock 12 here. I might get kicked out for going over here, but one thing is for sure though, they are hard at work at stopping this, it seems like. So we have a lot of crew out here right now. Is this the raw sewage over here? It definitely does not.
I am curious what the locks. He keeps talking about like locks. That's usually with having to do with you have the locks that are up in the Great Lakes, bringing water from a higher to a lower. I've never heard of or really seen locks in just a small little river like that isn't using for power generation. So I'm really curious as to why there's locks near the Potomac like that, because it doesn't look like that's the main part of any kind of river. It's almost like a creek. So I am curious. That is interesting.
Smell good at all. That smells awful. So is this going over the road? I'm trying to understand where the main source of the leak is. All right, we'll go here. Oh, okay, yeah. I love they decided to set up the porta potties right beside the sewage leak as well. Yeah, I mean, this smells awful. This is dreadful. Okay, so what I was standing
Look at all that.
Standing by
That
was
just
the-
leaking, all of that just leaking out. That is a lot of sewage.
end run of the sewage. So when I was down by the river there, it seems like all of that is coming straight from this.
Yeah, that doesn't
Oh
shock me
my
that it's been
gosh.
like 2 million gallons of sewage at that
This is an absolute disaster. It smells awful here. I can't believe this is happening. But what I'm also extremely surprised about is how few people are actually talking about this, because I've only seen this on local news. This is one of the largest sewage spills in US history, apparently. That's what the reports are saying. So it's safe to say the poop situation is crazy. Okay, so I'm assuming there's more than one leak. This is also coming here. So, well, actually, the leak could just be upstream in one of the pipes and it's flowing out through here. That could also be true. Yeah, that's what I think is happening, because like they have it taped off there. It's probably actually further up there, and then it's kind of flowing out over here. Yeah, either way, it just smells awful. This is unbearable. I need to figure out a way back to my car, though. And I'm kind of trapped on this island in the middle of the...
Out of anything, I'm really sorry for it sucks for the people that actually live in that area, if there are any residential housing, to have to sit there and smell that. Again, this is, Biden did all of these, and especially like Obama did all of these supposed shovel-ready jobs. That's for infrastructure. This is infrastructure. So I'm curious as to how old that sewage line was that ended up collapsing. Or was it was it because of the age of the sewer system, the sewage system, that ended up causing it to collapse? Was it just in disrepair? Were they aware that it was in bad condition and just didn't do anything about it? It's hard to say, but again, city planners, if anything, the citizens of that area definitely should be demanding an investigation into actually what occurred and to what extent the government did know or didn't know what was going on. And was it a funding issue? They knew this infrastructure was in trouble to begin with, and then all of a sudden it now finally had a failure. But just the environmental impact in itself, again, this is part of the problems of major cities like this, around the Potomac, because you have Washington, D.C. Well, that's a lot of sewage. Because a lot of those politicians are full of shit.
The main road. All right, so I guess we'll just...
I know, bad joke. I apologize. Calling a politician full of shit. I mean, that's low hanging fruit. So I apologize.
follow the sewage water down and
I will do better.
figure it out from there. Oh my gosh. It like hits you like a freight train because like you won't smell it for a minute and then suddenly it just whips you in the face with the most putrid smell you've ever smelled in your life. Kind of like I'm standing here and I'm like,
Maybe this would be a good time to actually go because I'm so congested right now that my nose is just constantly, it's just like plugged up right now. So I probably wouldn't smell it. And because my nose is plugged up, my taste buds aren't as reacting quite as much. But I could just imagine even breathing through your mouth, you probably could taste it. That's how strong this probably smells. Ugh.
yep, that's sewage. Yep. Oh, imagine losing my phone here. Yeah, that's sewage. Oh, it's freezing. It smells awful. This is what I'm spending my Saturday doing. And we have a blizzard hitting this area in about 3.5 hours, if even. So that too will be interesting. I actually visited a sewage treatment plant for like a class field day. Super interesting field day. I think that was like in middle school or something like that. And it smelled exactly like this. So yeah, can confirm that's sewage. Again, I mean, it's awful. The smell is unbelievable. So I'm just walking on the side. I think this is actually, it's not an interstate, this is a highway. So we're walking on the side of the highway here. Oh, so all I'm doing is like holding myself from trying to puke because this is like the worst smell I've smelled in my life. Why the hell did I not bring a mask? Oh. How you guys doing? I mean, the amount of sewage this is actually unreal. I mean, this is just disgusting, and this is just such an environmental failure. I swear, I mean, they've been trying to clean up the Potomac for years now, and I don't even know how much this set us back. And it's so sad, because, like, I grew up in Norway where we could actually swim in our rivers and lakes, and unfortunately,
It really depends on where you are in the country because there are plenty of rivers and lakes that you can swim in the U.S. Now, granted, the Potomac's a little bit different of a situation just because while it's going right through a major city, it's an older city. It has a lot of problems when it comes to environmental, when it comes to the quality of the water. Same with, I'm pretty sure, probably lakes in the area. You go out to into as much as what's going on in Minnesota. Minnesota has a lot of lakes that you can go swimming. The Great Lakes, you can go swimming in the Great Lakes. I wouldn't recommend swimming in the Mississippi River. That's not one to go swimming on. Mainly because of the size, the current, but I'm pretty sure it's probably not the cleanest of rivers either.
Fortunately, it's because of things like this that we can't do that here in the States. Like, I would never swim in the Potomac ever. Even though they've had these days where they, at least, maybe not in the Potomac, it was the other one, not the Shenandoah. No, maybe it was the Shenandoah. No, the other one. Can't remember it right now. Maybe it was the Shenandoah. No, the Shenandoah runs into the Potomac. Even though they have had these, like, swim days in rivers near the DC area. Oh, what's it called? Yeah, they're actively working on it here. So this is a cleanup process that will take a long time, unfortunately. How you doing? Hi, how are you? Do you guys know how long it'll take until it's all cleaned up, roughly?
I'm trying again.
Like weeks or?
I don't know.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. There's some irony there. How you doing, sir? Thank you. Thank you guys for cleaning all this up. I'm so sorry.
All right, so I just talked to some of the DC water guys, and they're thinking this will take weeks for them to clean up. So, yeah, this is crazy. So I said...
It may be weeks for cleanup just in that proximity, but like I said, I mean, it's going right into the river, which means it's going into the riverbed. It's going onto the shore of the shoreline of the river. It's going to be a lot longer due to the impact of the river itself. It's not going to be a couple weeks. As he was talking about too, is like obviously he lives in kind of in the DC area, talking about the fact that the Potomac in itself has not had really clean, and they've been trying to get it cleaned. So yeah, this is not good for the DC area. And like I said, depends on where they're getting their water from. Hopefully they're not getting their water source for drinking and portable water out of the Potomac, because that's not good unless they're getting it from further upstream of where this is happening, But still, it's just, oh, that's
200 million gallons of raw sewage. Apparently that's an outdated number. Now they're estimating over 300 million gallons of raw sewage being dumped out into the Potomac River. The smell is just awful here. But now
300 million gallons of raw sewage being just flowing into the Potomac. Again, as Atuzzi's saying, I mean, it's not even making the news. I only found out about this because of Atuzzi. This is, I mean, wow.
Now we have a blizzard coming in, and an hour and a half is when the snow is supposed to start. So we got to get off the roads before it starts getting dangerous here, because unfortunately not too many people are used to driving on snow here. And the other problem is most people are using summer tires, obviously, because we never have snow here. So those two combined create very dangerous conditions here on the roads. So yeah, that's the update for now. I'm now gonna go to the grocery stores and see if I can get a couple of cans of food. I do have a decent amount of stocked up, but I want to go see what the situation is like at the local grocery stores here before this insane blizzard hits. So that's the update here right now. On January 24th, I'll probably be uploading this on the 25th or 26th, depending on how quickly I can get this up. Regardless though, thank you so much to all the workers that are out here working overtime to get this cleaned up, because obviously this is not their fault. This is an infrastructure failure. All the workers out here just working their ass off to try to clean up the infrastructure failure here. So it's a disaster, but they're busting their
Though the amount of workers that are there, and you could see when he was walking by, I bet those were supervisors, because they were just standing there, not actually at the work site itself, or just standing off to the side. So those are probably either inspectors or supervisors, because they're not the actual workers that are sitting right there at that spot. Though, again, respect to any of those that have to deal with this type of cleanup or working on infrastructure. I mean, to sit there and have to deal with that smell, to have to deal with the cleanup of dealing with sewage in general, that I mean, right there goes back to the old Dirty Jobs TV show. It's jobs that, you know, I know what, people in high school, you don't think about this being a job or a field that you're going to get into. Now, granted, civil engineering and civil planning, you're kind of getting into that type of thing when it comes to like city planning. But a lot of respect to the actual workers on the ground that are actually having to deal with it themselves. Can't imagine. Well, I can imagine it is not great there to have to sit there and actually smell all of that going on, and it's again, women in there talking about wanting equal pay. These construction workers are earning every cent, and actually, in my opinion, are probably underpaid on top of it for what they have to actually put up with on a daily basis when it comes to this. Because again, that one, in that case, the vehicle was DC water. So these workers are dealing with all kinds of sewage lines all the time. They're dealing with water systems. So again, those that are the ones out there supporting the infrastructure for water and sewage and stuff like that are the unsung heroes that actually keeps our civilization moving. And the ones that are most ignored, the ones that are always looked over. And in many of the Instagram 304 world are the ones that they snub their nose at or look down upon. And it goes back to just even the trade schools when it comes to electricians or plumbers and stuff like that. They make really great money. And on top of that, they just went to a trade school. Unlike a lot of people that ended up going to university and getting a degree, that they're now just working as a barista. Never going to pay off that loan, constantly demanding that those that either didn't go to college or did go to college and paid off their own student debt because they didn't pick a useless degree, now pay for their college debt. I understand the college debt system is predatory. It is absolutely predatory. But the nature of the increase in the education all comes down to the fact that the government ended up taking over the loan system for higher education, snuck into the Obamacare bill. The Affordable Care Act is where the government ended up backing student loans. So it allowed and opened it up for universities and colleges to start raising their rates because, well, the money is backed by the government. They're going to get their money even if the students never pay it back or they default or they drop out and never complete their degrees. And then they can keep raising the rate of tuition every year because, again, government backs the loans. But that's getting sidetracked. Going back to this.
Masses trying to clean it all up. So at least we have that.
Okay, so now the leak has been stopped. So shout out to DC Water and all the crew members who worked around the clock, literally, to make sure this stopped, even through the blizzard. But thankfully, DC Water did build a $55 million waterfront office so they have a front row view and can smell their own lack of maintenance. But hey, that's just the leadership. Everyone I talked to from DC Water, they were working hard around the clock trying to clean up this mess, even during a blizzard. So shout out to all of them. But thankfully the sewage leak is stopped, but I can only assume how far this set us behind in making the Potomac River actually clean again. Because there has been a lot of efforts in DC to try to make the Potomac clean enough to actually swim it, which seems to be a very much so uphill battle. But I know this is kind of a different type of video that I normally make, but I still wanted to cover it because I felt like nobody was covering it. And I'm just extremely upset it happened because I feel like we should all want our environment to be cleaner for the next generation. But enough of my rambling. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again.
And like I said, this is a Tuesday. The link to his channel is in the description. A link to this video is in the description as well. So go and check him out. He actually does some really good videos. Like I said before, he's gone to South Korea covering the Johnny Somali trial and stuff like that with like Andrew the lawyer. He's met up with him there. He went to upstate New York and was in the courtroom for the DoorDash girl, even though nothing happened when he was there. So, all right, so let's get into the next one. Now, everyone remembers, well, a lot of people remember this. Before we get into that, I need a new chair. This chair is becoming so dang uncomfortable to sit in. I either need to get a new seat pad or something because I'm keep shifting around. And I just cannot find a comfortable position to sit in. And that's, I gotta figure this out because this is going to drive me nuts. Okay, the next one up comes from the channel. Let me get me over real quick so you can see that this comes from Slow Start. The channel is in the description as well. And we're just going to go over the worst console defect in gaming history. And we all know it. Some of us actually had to experience it. Luckily, I was a PlayStation adopter earlier, and so I was doing Sony PlayStations. So I never got a 360 in the original configuration that was having all of the red ring of death issues. I avoided that completely. Now I do have a 360 Slim, and I'm playing a lot more of that because of what Microsoft is doing with everything. I'm done with Microsoft. If you watched previous videos, you would know that because I've talked so much about switching over to Linux. But I'm also looking more into for the creative side because Linux doesn't want to play nice with the editing software that I have, but it does on a Mac. So I'm running Linux as my daily driver, and then for graphical or creative purposes, I do jump over to a Mac Studio. And I'm still in the process of kind of getting that one up and running. Otherwise, Linux in itself, again, to each their own, and it is a little bit of a learning curve, but that learning curve, I think, has a lot more to do with the fact that everyone's so used to Windows and not used to a different operating system and a different scheme. But there are plenty of Linux distros out there that you can try and see which one works the best for you.
It's August 2005. Somewhere in the world, at a secret, undisclosed manufacturing facility. It's definitely China. The production of Microsoft's Xbox 360 is in full swing. The pace is frantic. At peak hours, a new unit is coming off the line every 4 seconds. In just 3 months, Microsoft's highly anticipated new console will hit store shelves, beating both Sony and Nintendo to market and ushering in the next generation of console gaming for the entire world. Well, at least some of it. This guy, at least. You see, that November, the Xbox 360 would experience a severe case of inventory shortages. In North America, retailers would receive only 1/3 of the consoles they had ordered. In Europe, it was even worse, with only 300,000 units available.
Joining us over on YouTube. Let's see. And in just 1 month, I get Rendering of Death and never get another Xbox. Yeah. And I wouldn't, and I don't fault you, and I wouldn't fault anyone else. The whole point is, a company puts out a product, you would expect it to work. The amount of Red Rings of Death that occurred, that is just an unbelievable major failure from such a big company. But again, it is stated right in the beginning of this video, Microsoft was out to beat Nintendo and Sony with the PlayStation with the next gen. So trying to rush it through, definitely, I mean, they fixed it later, but just to be the first out the door ended up costing them.
For the entire continent. There just weren't enough Xboxes to go around. Christmases were ruined. Shelves were left empty. Copies of King Kong, the official game of the movie, were left unplayed. It was a disaster. But Microsoft didn't seem to think so. When pressed by the media, the company was keen to assure customers that they were shipping out consoles as fast as they could possibly make them. And that was technically true. In 2005, Microsoft was producing new consoles, and at a rapid rate, but they weren't shipping them. And that's because out of the thousands of Xbox 360s being manufactured each day, almost 70% were being shelved as
See, this is on Microsoft just completely. I mean, to have such a high rate of failure off the line, to get only like a 30% yield of good, that's only a 30% good. That should be unacceptable, where they actually just stop production completely and reassess to actually fix it. Yeah, exactly. Holy shit, 70%. I honestly did not realize it was that bad of a failure rate. Let's see, I stood in line for my Halo 3 edition midnight release, spent all my community college grant money. Oh. Because Microsoft acknowledged it and were replacing. I think that's what saved them from major lawsuits, was the fact that almost no questions asked, they were replacing those that got the red ring, I believe. And I think that by acknowledging the mistake and offering compensation by a new system, I think that's part of what kept them from really getting sued by consumers.
Effective. Engineers at the factory begged to halt production. At this point, it had become abundantly clear there was a critical issue plaguing the company's new hardware, and the team needed the proper time to diagnose the problem. But no one would listen. For Microsoft, the idea of beating Sony to market and spearheading the next generation of consoles was the only thing that mattered. And they were willing to achieve it at any cost. By 2000...
Yeah, engineers spoke up, said that the thing was defective, 70% failure rate, and yet they're still producing them, and the higher-ups are completely ignoring the actual issue, what's going on with their consoles. It's like, yeah, how many times have we seen that heads of companies ignore the actual workers on the floor, actually ignore the warning and red flag waving, saying, hey, we've got a major problem. But again, they were too concerned with being the first out in the new generation that they were allowing this to happen. And yeah, in the end, yeah, Xbox 360 cost the company a lot of money because of just failure of the product. As we heard, 70% failure rate. And then on top of that, the amount of consoles that they had to replace that were purchased by consumers. Also joining us is Devastator. How you doing, Devastator?
2006, Microsoft had amassed a warehouse inventory of over 500,000 defective consoles. They didn't know it at the time, but Microsoft's decision to ignore the issues plaguing the 360 would result in one of the most expensive blunders in consumer electronics history. One that not only managed to kill the company's consoles, but almost
They haven't. I gotta take that back. Really?
history.
They really do that.
One that not only.
Yep. In a display case in a store, they have a console with a red ring of death on display. Wow, is that ever a vote of confidence for your product? Oh, wow. Yeah, you can't make that stuff up. Oh, man. And consumer confidence is everything. Yeah, you're right. A lot of consumer confidence. That's what destroys consumer confidence in a company, that it allows to put out such a terrible product. And then on top of that, I guarantee you, if I remember correctly, is Microsoft at first, at least, ignored it. Really weren't talking about it. But yeah, $1.3 billion in repairs because they were repairing them, because all the consoles were under warranty at that point anyway. So they were going to have to fix or replace the systems of people that bought them. And then, of course, this is also pre all the scalping that was going on with the last generation of gaming consoles of the Series X and S and PlayStation 5s. Yeah, try to. Yeah, Microsoft. Well, again, Microsoft is such a big company anyway. Unlike maybe a small, like Nintendo is just Nintendo. I'm sure they have a little few other kind of companies that could kind of help them. But in the end, if Nintendo fails, they completely fail and they take the entire company down with them. Sony has a little bit of wiggle room in there because, well, they got the entertainment side. They have electronics and everything else, so it's not exactly the biggest piece of their pie when it comes to financial. But Microsoft has everything else. So this is such a small sliver that this kind of thing, while it looks bad reporting-wise of $1.3 billion in repairs, granted, while it maybe hurt the higher-ups' bonuses maybe a little bit, otherwise probably had very little impact on the overall health of the business.
Managed to kill the company's consoles, but almost managed to kill the brand itself. Somewhere, lurking deep inside the confines of Microsoft's new hardware, was a critical hardware defect that would end up igniting a 3-year-long nightmare for both the company and its customers. A nightmare that would come to be known as the Red Ring of Death.
Yeah, you said you bought one and then it red ringed on you and you never bought it again. And again, like I said, I don't blame you in any kind of way. I completely missed the red ring in the sense of a system that I bought because, again, I was in the Sony PlayStation ecosystem and not buying Xboxes. I didn't actually buy an Xbox until the 360 Slim that I bought at a pawn shop.
Come on. Come on. What? No. Great. I'm probably being desecrated now by some deviant.
Yep.
The Red Ring of Death. If you were an early 360 owner, you could hardly escape it. For those who don't recall, the RROD was a critical hardware defect commonly found among early launch units of the Xbox 360, indicated to the user by a set of 3 flashing red lights. And if you saw these lights while playing, well, it usually meant your Halo machine had just turned itself into a $400 paperweight. It was cooked, bricked, fried. Sergeant Johnson. Too soon?
I heard stories of people in an attempt to fix it, because I guess part of the reason was solder cracking, board warping due to heat. And I've also heard of people that were in a way to try to get it to reflow. They would turn their Xbox on to generate heat and then wrap it in a blanket. It's like all you're doing is thermally hurting your console even more. But hey, you want to know what? I read it online that they said that this would help. Wrapped it up in the towel, started it up, and it worked for like 30 minutes. Yeah. Yep. The saying, everyone was trying different things to get it to work. And I'm not going to fault anyone for trying any kind of way to try to repair a $400 piece of equipment that you bought that all of a sudden fails.
Too soon. The real numbers are unclear, but retailer surveys suggest that in the beginning, anywhere from 30 to 50% of Xbox 360s were succumbing to the Red Ring of Death.
So of the 70% failure defective out of the factory that never left the factory, of that 30%, 15 additional percent were also becoming defective. That actually is an 85% failure rate. I think this is truly actually where Microsoft started to die with the Xbox. I know the disastrous, I mean, granted, it did take off after they got it fixed, and it actually, the Xbox 360, I believe, ended up being their most successful console after they got it all fixed. But Xbox One, when that released, completely destroyed the company in itself. While this was a technological and hardware error, well, disaster, that was a decision being made by the company execs, clearly. It wasn't until the Xbox One where I think that's where they just started shooting themselves in the foot, and they just completely destroyed their company. Geez, that's about on par with Bill Gates' personal failure rate. Yeah.
In a disaster that devastated the company's reputation and ultimately threatened to destroy the entire Xbox brand before it had even managed to turn a profit. And yet, Microsoft pulled through. The Xbox 360 still turned out to be a massive commercial success, and the console is still remembered fondly by gamers even 20 years later. So how did they save it? And more...
I will say, no, that yeah, you want to know what? There may be a failure, everything. But again, out of all of the Xbox consoles, the 360 was their most successful. So their first Xbox, which was essentially all off-the-shelf components, I believe the Xbox 360 is when they started actually designing their own, more of their own system. And then that was it. Let's see if we can get this to refresh. Well, that just does not want to refresh. Well, that's not awesome. I've noticed this recently that StreamYards just does not want to. Now, I could quickly refresh, but it's going to drop me out. So, yes, Hellhound, yeah, had the best games. Which one had the best games? Are you talking about Are you talking about Sony PlayStation, or were you talking about like Xbox Series, the first Xbox?
Importantly, how'd they manage to screw it up so bad in the first place? Well, the answer to that particular question actually begins with the Xbox. But as we'll soon come to learn, Microsoft's risky foray into the console market kinda got off on the wrong track. This is an ad segue. Thankfully, when it comes to online browsing, you can get on the right track with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN helps secure your online activity by rerouting your network traffic through secure servers, letting you take advantage of all the benefits of VPN.
So
video.
Move ahead.
In the year 2000, Microsoft was gearing up to make their commercial debut in the cutthroat world of
360 seems about the time games peaked before the AAA got bloated. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't get a 360 until I got in a pawn shop, and it was a Slim. And I've never had any problems with it, and I still quite enjoy that console. With everything that Microsoft's been doing and Sony's been doing recently with the new systems, I reconnected my PlayStation 2, upgraded it by buying a non-name brand wireless controller for the PS2. And the 360, I've got old games, and I enjoy going again back to pawn shops and finding old 360 games. And that seems to be the route that I'm going to go because, again, the AAA bloat is true. The AAA is garbage now. There's nothing coming out that I'm excited for. And when it comes, the only games that to actually look into are going to be from the indie studios.
console game. And it was quite a risky move. With companies like Sega, Nintendo, and Sony dominating the industry, it had been well over a decade since an American company had been legitimately competitive in the space. And with all the top companies now hailing from Japan, Microsoft's attempt to disrupt the industry was like a direct assault on their shores. I mean, this was like the Iwo Jima of the console wars. And they weren't really equipped for the job either. I mean, Microsoft was a software company. They didn't make hardware, let alone cool hardware.
I actually never played Silent
In the year
Hill.
2000, the types of customers that got excited for Microsoft products
keep an
were
eye
a
on it.
completely
Was
different species from the
Was
ones that got
Silent
hyped for
Hill, exclusive to any of the systems, or was it just available on the multiple systems? Because I never played Silent Hill.
the PS2. It just wasn't their market. If Microsoft wanted any chance of competing in the edgy new world of hardcore gaming, they would need to completely reinvent themselves.
Okay, that's just gross doing that. We all know who Bill Gates is. Gives his wife STDs from sleeping with a Russian prostitute. I mean,
Less Microsoft, more jumbo hard. They needed a new name, a new look,
Microsoft.
a new attitude. They needed Xbox.
multiple young Russians.
Now, on the surface, Microsoft's debut console was everything the company wanted it to be. It was big, it was bold, it was edgy. Hell, it looked like it could rob Microsoft Office for its lunch money. Even powering it on was intimidating. The Xbox's boot-up screen made you feel like you had to harness some kind of forbidden, arcane energy source just to be able to play Halo 2. It was badass. With the Xbox, Microsoft had developed a powerful and highly coveted new console.
Yeah, and it was 50 pounds too. Yeah, it was a heavy off-the-shelf component console. And I remember when it first came out, the Xbox came out. I didn't get it, but I was in the military at the time, and the person I was roomed with in the barracks, as soon as they came out, he went and got one. Oh, you still have yours? It's definitely been a modder's dream because it's off the shelf. they've been able to do a lot of modifications to the old Xbox.
that had officially given them a seat at the cool kids' table. It was a huge win for the company, but it came at a cost. Compared to the PS2, the Xbox was a commercial catastrophe.
Yes. Okay. So you were going to bring that up. So the amount of games we played against each other in the barracks. Yes. So what would happen is we would be on watch. Our sub was in the shipyard for conversion. So we were functioning out of a barge tied to the pier. When we had duty days and we were standing watch at the sub, we would bring in, because mainly on the weekends and for at night, people would bring in their Xboxes and link them. We had projectors, and then we would project up onto the screen on other sides of the conference room, meeting room, whatever. Excuse me. And we would play Halo. A lot of Halo.
Selling only 25 million units compared to the PS2's whopping 160 million. Also, small side note, they also lost about $4 billion. But Microsoft wasn't fazed. They had always expected to lose money on the Xbox. The company just saw it as the price they had to pay to get their foot in the door. And now, with one console behind them, Microsoft could take everything they had learned from the Xbox to ensure the 360 gave Sony a run for their money. The first step was making it smaller. With the Xbox, Microsoft had achieved the most technically powerful console of its...
When you actually look at the original Xbox, because it was off-the-shelf hardware just put into a custom shell, that's why it was so heavy. It's just because, I mean, essentially, that was just the computer desktop base. Because essentially, it's just a computer. There's the big company man who sucked, who cucked Johnson. Yeah.
Generation. But it was also an absolute brick. Hell, even the controller was massive. And it was these factors that ultimately led to the Xbox completely flopping in Japan. Now, this was a market that Microsoft did not want to miss out on again. If the company was going to have any chance of winning over Sony's home turf, they would need to make a console that was easier to fit in the home and your hands. This inspired Microsoft to take an incredibly design-focused approach to their next console, which, at least in terms of aesthetics, certainly paid off. I mean, the 360 was straight up sexy. Who could forget that subtle, double concave casing, that tasteful, eggshell white finish, the chrome bezel glistening off the disk drive, and that glorious, glowing, green ring of life?
That one red.
Bet they wish that was the name that caught on.
It was a work of art. The Xbox 360 looked like whatever ominous, arcane energy source was previously inside the Xbox had been captured, tamed, and converted into green energy, while also brandishing a brand new look that made the console much more approachable and compact. So compact that it was actually becoming difficult to fit the parts inside. You see, in order to maintain the company's newfound reputation for high-performance hardware, Microsoft would need to cram as...
Hellhound, you really bring up a good point. Yeah, they focused too much on aesthetics. PlayStation did fine with their simplicity. Absolutely. I get what they were trying to do, but yeah, they went too artistic with it, and the end is what caused the downfall of the system in its initial, because again, as he's clearly about to talk about, is the fact that they had to jam all of it in there. They never set up any kind of proper cooling for it. When you have processors that are running and trying to accomplish what it was doing, it was really just terrible. Also, wow, thank you, Drunken Senpai. Where are you? Let me pull you up. Thank you very much for the off-label raid. Thank you to off-label. Welcome, everyone. We are watching the history of the Red Ring of Death. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Thank you again to off-label. Thank you, Simple Davy. Yeah, we got raid. Thank you.
Much power into the console as they could without compromising its aesthetics. And this turned out to be quite tricky to do. You ever wonder why the 360's power supply is on the outside of the console? Well, that's because they simply ran out of space on the inside. Oh, and the thing was a frickin' brick too, so much for compact. The end result.
See, that was the reaction. The whole point is Microsoft had the original Xbox. It was way too heavy because all the components were inside. But yeah, I remember they had such a huge freaking brick when it came to the new Xbox 360. It's because they were trying to make it lighter. They're trying to make it smaller, and they didn't put any. Yeah, let's see. If I'm wrong, the external fans that you could get were actually things worse than company getting sued. Yeah, and yeah, that stupid brick. Yeah, it was just amazing. It's unfortunate how much they put into it and trying to beat them. And again, when you have a 70% failure rate, and then it turns out that of the 30% that actually made it to the stores, they had a half percentage rate. I mean, half of them also failed. That's an overall production run failure rate of 85% of the consoles, all because they wanted to be first out of the gate. On top of that, because they went to this type of simplicity. I mean, they went to a very aesthetic shape, but then they never provided the proper cooling that it needed. And on top of that, the fault that a lot of the heat ended up causing cracking of the soldering joints, or it was bad soldering in general that caused it, but the board was too thin, so it ended up warping, which was breaking because of the heat and breaking. It's just, wow, just the amount of failures around this console. But yeah, they did repair it, and it ended up being their most successful console.
Result was a machine with an incredibly cramped and sloppy internal architecture that left it exceptionally prone to overheating. But Microsoft didn't have time to optimize. The company was way too focused on getting the 360 built, shipped, and on shelves as soon as possible. And most importantly, before the PS3. Microsoft felt like one of the reasons the original Xbox undersold was because it launched over a year after Sony's PS2, losing the company a significant portion of the next-gen market. But not this time. This time it was going to be Microsoft that launched the next generation. Unfortunately, this attitude would lead to a lot of corner cutting with the 360. Along with its shoddy engineering, the console's problems were made even worse from an underfunded testing process that left the console riddled with bugs. But with a hasty launch date set for November of 2005, Microsoft was forced to push forward. And yet,
it's really kind of the example of what's happening with the AAA games and the company interference with that, with pushing out. Look at all the games that have been coming out recently, how they're buggy, they're broken, and they don't work. They fix it later down the road. It's the same. It's the exact same principle. It's a higher, huge, big corporation that we need to push for the shareholders. We need to beat the other company out. All of these decisions, when we were seeing earlier, we had the engineers that were waving the red flag saying, hey, we need to stop. We need to actually fix this. We need to actually do this. And yep, it actually did not. The higher ups completely ignored it. So they put out a broken system. Yeah, let's see. Yep. Start with Microsoft and may end the Microsoft finally dies. I think Microsoft's in actually dangerous territory in general, not just for their consoles, but everything that they're doing with the spyware that essentially is what is called Microsoft Windows 11. That is nothing but just AI software, AI spyware and malware. I remember my friend got the 360. He never turned it off because it used it as an entertainment center and it burned it out. Yeah, that's the downside, because again, that thing was not properly cooled. The board was too thin. Board warping was occurring, and yeah, solder's joints were cracking or just completely being ripped out. And yeah, and again, it's great that you bring up the aspect of the 360 being used as a home console, because that's exactly what they ended up doing with the Microsoft One. Is that trying to make it less just a gaming system, but an all-inclusive family PC that you had in the entertainment center. One of many failures that I think really started the downfall of the Xbox.
Yet, they didn't seem too worried. In fact, during the final, most pivotal months of the project, Microsoft was actually pulling engineers off the Xbox to go work on other hardware. Now, this was Microsoft. What other major hardware project could they have possibly been working on that could have been more important than the... Oh my god!
Oh, you guys remember Zunes? Oh, I remember standing in line to get my Zune. No, I never got one. I was one that actually went with the iPod and stuck with the iPod. Meanwhile, I had modded PS2 and had 3 500 gigabyte hard drives full of movies, music, and games, and it never burned out. Yeah. PS2 was a very solid system. Very sought after when it comes to retro gaming now. My PS2 is the slim PS2 version. I pulled that thing back out. I have it hooked back up, and I have myself a wireless controller for that thing, and I've been playing a lot of them and heading out to thrift stores, heading out to pawn shops in my area, looking for all of my any PS2 games or even old 360 games. Well, thank you for joining, and thank you for raiding in. Have a good night.
The Zune?
Okay, now when this came up in my research, it boggled me. I mean, at this point, Microsoft had only begun making hardware a few years prior. And yet, in 2005, the company was apparently attempting to simultaneously disrupt 2 major consumer electronics industries at the same time. It was irresponsibly ambitious. And by the way it sounded, the dual projects were stretching the Xbox team way too thin. But it was only when the company actually began manufacturing that the shit really hit the fan. Or lack thereof. I mean, this thing got hot. The 360's cramped components and lack of proper cooling were causing a myriad of fatal issues with the new console. And those problems really only started to show once they got to making them. In a memo recorded in August of 2005, literally 3 months before launch, the manufacturing floor was reporting, quote, overheating graphics chips, cracking heat sinks, cosmetic issues with the casing, and a problem with the DVD drive.
And for anyone who recalls, that last problem was almost bad enough to warrant an entire video in itself.
As a result, the defects facing the 360 produced devastatingly low yield rates during its manufacturing, resulting in a stockpile of over 500,000 defective units and an inventory shortage that affected its entire launch. But
So inventory shortage that was due to defects, not scalpers. So that was the one thing. The system I'm running off of my computer that I had built was in response to both the PS5 and the Xbox Series S never being available. I was just like, you want to know what? Screw it, Microsoft. Screw it, Sony. I'm just going to build an incredibly powerful PC. And this PC is what those systems came out in during COVID, so I believe 2000. So my system is over 5 years old and still is powerful, works, and I've done minor upgrades to it, and still an incredible system.
Microsoft had still technically accomplished their goal. In November 2005, the company had officially managed to launch their new console an entire year before Sony's PS3, making Microsoft the official leaders of the next generation. But they had also begun development of the 360 a year after Sony had started on their new console, which meant that in total, Microsoft had spent a whole 2 years less time working on the 360 than Sony did on the PS3. Was that really a good thing? Spoiler alert! Now! Almost immediately after its launch, customers began experiencing all sorts of problems with Microsoft's new console. From disk drives scratching games beyond repair, to overheating consoles, to obnoxiously loud fans. But one particular problem was rising above the rest. Forums were describing an error in which the Xbox's green power button would turn bright red and flash 3 blinking lights, often rendering the Xbox unresponsive in the process. Now, for everyone who was so new to the console, this probably looked pretty unsettling. Up until this point, everything about the 360, from its design to its marketing to the aesthetics of its dashboard, were developed to feel friendly and approachable, almost like an Apple product. And that ring around its power button looked like the symbol of its vitality.
Yeah, that is a good point. It kind of has almost an Apple-esque, with it being white, with what Apple was doing at the time with the iPhone and with the iPod. It's a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
So seeing it switch from an eco-friendly green to a flashing blood red, it was kind of creepy. But in reality, those sinister-looking lights were really just an error code, and depending on how many lit up, determined what was wrong with your console. Now, one red light meant you had a hardware failure. That meant that somewhere, something inside the console had broken down. 2 flashing lights meant the console was overheating. Inconvenient? Yes. But fatal? Probably not. Now, the third error code was a different story. 3 red lights on your 360 indicated a hardware failure of 1 or more components. Now, this was the error associated with the red ring of death, and it usually meant your 360 was so fried that it couldn't even muster up an error code on the screen. You'd often just get some kind of demented graphical glitch, and some players would even report blaringly loud noises from their TV that they could not turn down. What's going on? A vast majority of the time, this error indicated that your console was absolutely toast. But then, there was the 4th error code. The one indicated by 4 flashing red lights. The one that completed that sinister red ring and proclaimed to all those unfortunate enough to bear witness that their AV cables were unplugged. That's right, folks.
Yeah, because the ones that I always saw, it was not all 4 rings. It was just the 3 rings. That is kind of funny. I do like the way he's presenting that, making it seem like it actually was, oh my goodness, this was much worse. No, just AV cables were not connected. But yeah, again, rushed the system too early. Didn't listen to their engineers when they were reporting all of the errors. The fact that they already knew that they had a 70% out of the factory failure rate that didn't even get shipped out. So... like I said, this guy's doing a really good video. Make sure the links to his channel are in the description. So definitely going to be checking out more of his videos.
That's right. Don't let the scariest looking one fool you. It's actually comically benign. Now, at first, the problem wasn't that big. You see, the RROD was a latent defect, meaning the problem didn't typically arise until after extended use of the console. Which meant that for the first year, Microsoft was able to very easily downplay the problem. Just days after launch, a spokesperson for Microsoft released a statement claiming the company had received a few isolated reports of dysfunctional consoles, but that the issues were affecting a, quote, very, very small fraction of units sold.
Of units sold, not of the entire production, which, again, like was said earlier, 70% never left the factory because of the failure rate.
Now, even if that was true, it wouldn't be small for long. By the middle of '06, instances of the red ring had begun to appear for a concerning amount of Xbox owners, with retailer surveys suggesting that at least 30% of players were now experiencing the issue. For Microsoft, it was becoming hard to ignore. Customer report calls were coming in by the thousands, all from victims of the red ring desperately looking to Microsoft for answers. And their response was kind of funny. You see, tech support was well aware of the 360's growing hardware defect, but they had also been explicitly instructed never to refer to the problem as the red ring of death.
I mean, the optics of having such a satanic-looking error code were already bad enough, but it really wasn't helping that it also now had a badass name.
So for Microsoft, the problem was simply known as the 3 blinking lights. And as for what they could do for you, well, it wasn't much. Even though the company was fully aware of the 360's hardware issues prior to launch, Microsoft only offered customers a standard warranty of 3 months. Meaning that by the time users...
That's gross, hellhound. Red bumps of passion is what Gates prefers. Gross, man. Gross.
had experienced the defect, their warranty was well past expired. So what could you do? Well, you could either take the hit and pay Microsoft to fix your console, or you could try and take the matters into your own hands. By now, online repair communities had seen the problem enough to understand it. The Red Ring of Death was mainly caused by stresses induced from turning the console on and off over the course of several months. This action was technically known by professionals as power cycling, but for the humble layman, it was simply called playing your Xbox. Due to a design error, the act of power cycling would cause dramatic fluctuations to the console's internal temperature, eventually drying out the soldering on the GPU and disconnecting it from the motherboard. But the internet had a solution. The idea was to find a way to heat your Xbox up as much as possible in order to melt the solder inside the console and
That's what I was talking about earlier, the whole point of turning it on and wrapping it up. I heard stories of people dismantling it and then taking everything that they could off of the motherboard, everything, so it's just the motherboard, and putting it into an oven, trying to heat it up to try to get the solder to reflow and reconnect.
Reconnect the components. This is a fairly common repair technique known as reflowing, and it's usually performed with a soldering iron or a reflow machine by a skilled technician. But in this case, it was 13-year-old boys ripping the PCB out of their Xbox and throwing it in their mom's oven.
There it is, right, throwing it in the oven.
Or, for the slightly less enlightened, putting your entire 360 in the oven.
Oh.
But that wasn't the only fix. Along with the infamous oven trick, there was also a concerning amount of people just blasting their motherboard with blowtorches. Like this lady, who does it indoors, on a wooden table.
Oh no, it caught fire. Quick!
Yeah. Yeah, there's your problem. The blowtorch, not exactly a soldering tool.
Blow it out. You can do it. Blow it out.
Thankfully,
Did you notice that as she's blowing it out, she still has the flame pointing at the Xbox? Yeah, it's the same thing. Tide Pod people aren't new. Nope, they're not new. They've been around for
there
quite
were
some time.
other less hazardous ways to try and reflow your Xbox, but no matter what method you ended up using, they were almost always temporary fixes, and customers were lucky if it gave them even a couple more days of playability. So what was left to do? Well, if your console was bricked and you couldn't afford repairs, there was still one last way to get some entertainment.
That's the first time I've seen this shit.
Red f***ing ring of death.
Again? This is the fifth Xbox I've been through.
Microsoft, you suck.
I swear to God, dude, this is the last f***ing time. This is pissing me off.
Beast mode! What?
I mean, why not destroy it? If it's already past due, already past warranty, and you would have to pay. Now, granted, Microsoft ended up doing a lot of the repair work, because if they didn't do the repair work, the massive class action lawsuit that would be coming against them for this, especially when they know that they had the documentation of the failure rate, they were fully aware of it. Yeah, Microsoft was going to lose at any rate on this thing.
Holy.
Thanks, Microsoft, for making us such a brilliant machine.
So there's to you, Xbox. Letting me down so many times.
Hey, Xbox, thanks. I hope you could refurbish this shit.
Okay, so right around here is when Xbox realized they really screwed up. I mean, the optics of having an inherent hardware defect were already bad enough. But when customers were nearly burning their houses down trying to fix their Xboxes, and then subsequently splintering them with baseball bats in viral videos, it was clear there was a serious problem.
It wasn't a serious problem until they had videos going viral of them people destroying their systems. Even through my old TV off the roof, you know how thick that old glass was. Oh yeah, old CRTs. Oh yeah, heavy, thick.
Microsoft knew it too, whether they wanted to admit it or not. For the first 2 years of the console's lifecycle, Microsoft was quietly releasing version after version of new motherboards in an attempt to fix the hardware's shoddy engineering problems. And while each subsequent iteration did improve the console's failure rate, with the release of games like Gears of War and Halo 3, the graphical demands of next-gen titles were placing even more stress on the console's hardware. The problem was persisting. But apart from extending the warranties for a handful of affected players, the company had done very little to publicly acknowledge the issue. And in the end, it was the players who suffered. Some accounts tell of customers sending their consoles in for repairs 3, 4, even 5 times, amounting to hundreds of dollars in repair fees that the vast amount of warranties no longer covered. With Microsoft's return policy, the company was essentially saying to their customers that these repeated hardware failures just
think about how good he was with the vaccines in Africa. No problem there. Yeah. It definitely in alignment with the Bill Gates philosophy.
Weren't their fault. But this strategy would not work forever. By 2007, the Red Ring of Death was viral. Having been the first console to launch during the dawn of social media, the problems players were experiencing with the 360 were being broadcasted for the entire world to see. For the vast majority of gamers, it was now common knowledge that the Xbox 360 was suffering from a critical hardware defect that its parent company was refusing to acknowledge. And may I remind you, this was a company that had yet to become profitable and was still building their reputation in the hardware industry. They literally couldn't afford a problem like this. And with the recent release of the PlayStation 3, Microsoft no longer had the hardcore gaming market all to themselves.
I am curious how many switched. Got the Red Ring of Death, got fed, maybe did do a repair, paid for it, or just abandoned it completely and then went and bought a PS3 and then stuck with PS3. And that's part of the reason why the Xbox just completely started going downhill. Now, granted, again, the Xbox 360 was their most successful console. I won't dispute that. But it is the most successful for them. It wasn't the most successful in history, obviously, because that was the PS2. Switch is con up there. I can't remember if Switch has finally overtaken the PS2 as the most successful console, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't overtake if it hasn't already.
This was becoming a life or death situation. If the Xbox division wanted any chance of salvaging
To play into the joke, what they should have did is if they actually have had an Xbox symbol on a building, just to play into the joke a little bit, is add the red rings.
their reputation, any hope of facing Sony in the next generation of the console wars, they would need to employ a strategy that acknowledged the problem, admitted full responsibility, and resolved customers' issues, no questions asked. And to their credit, they eventually did that. In July of 2007, Microsoft made an official public statement acknowledging the Red Ring of Death, or the 3 blinking lights, as a critical hardware defect inherent to the 360. As a result, 100% of customer repair fees were refunded, original warranties were extended for 3 whole years, and all consoles affected were repaired or replaced free of charge. Except the ones people obliterated with baseball bats. It was incredibly expensive for the company. Robbie Bach, the then head of Xbox division, called the move the, quote, biggest decision he made in 22 years at Microsoft. A decision that ended up costing the company $1.15 billion. But it was the right move. To this day, Xbox is still praised for the way they handled the issue, once they finally admitted to it, and the decision is all...
Again, 360 was still their most successful. People did at least buy it. Then when they finally got rid of the original design and went to the slim, their slim version of it, I have a slim. I have never had any issues with it or problems with it, but still, I mean, yeah, that's it exactly. Hellhound. Our new strategy is release 4 different systems at the same time, practically. Yeah, I mean, right now they're doing 2 systems, and that's your budget system that's digital only, or one that actually has a disk drive. The question I put to everyone is, and those watching on rewatching this, put it in the comments. Do you think Microsoft is no longer going to make any of their own hardware starting past the Xbox Series S and X? Or do you think there will be an Xbox 5, a 5th one? God knows only what they're going to name it, being that their naming scheme is just all over the place. But it seems like they may be willing to shift hardware design and everything else hardware to maybe a third party to make it all, and then they're sitting there just making the games and being a studio. Yep, Hellhound, I think you're right. They'll focus more on cloud computing and maybe a Stream Deck type of thing. They already have one. They did pair up with, like, I think Logitech, and they do have a couple handheld devices similar to like a Stream Deck that are out there, that are in the same version right now and generation as the Xbox Series X and S. But when it comes to the one that could be following up, I think I don't think Microsoft's going to do any more hardware. I think they're fully done. I think Sony will still do PS6. I think that is still on the horizon. But for the next generation Xbox, I don't think Microsoft's going to do it.
Often cited as the one that ultimately saved the Xbox brand. And it also bought them just enough time to actually fix the issue. In 2008, Microsoft released Jasper, the 360's 4th generation motherboard, and the one that virtually eliminated the Red Ring of Death for good. From there, the 360 could finally begin to heal, enjoying the remaining 5 years of its life cycle engaged in fierce competition with Sony and officially cementing itself as a worthy faction in the console wars. But who actually ended up winning? After all of Xbox's hard work trying to compete with Sony, which company managed to lead in sales, beat out their rival, and crowned themselves king of the 7th generation. That's right.
Nintendo.
The Wii!
Yeah.
In
Nintendo
2007, Nintendo placed a wild gamble on the weird new world of casual gaming.
Yep. Right, Hellhound. Neither one did, because it ended up being Nintendo with the Wii. And then really in all actuality, you have the current generation, and with that current generation, which one was the crown out of that one too? The Nintendo Switch. And this is where I think the Switch 2, I think Nintendo is screwing up when it comes to Switch 2. They're trying to get more powerful and everything else, that ended up causing the console to be more expensive, and now charging more for the games and everything else. Bad decisions I think Nintendo is making. You still have your Nintendo fanboys out there that'll still just deal with it and be fine with it. But I think it's almost like they're trying to now compete on the hardware side of things. But Nintendo should stop. Nintendo should know and just stay in their lane. Really, Nintendo had no competition, because a lot of people had a Nintendo in addition to having either a PlayStation or having an Xbox. Because, well, again, Nintendo really does have console games that are exclusive to Nintendo that we're never going to go and see anywhere else. Or Valve. Yep. Steam is, I think, going to win. Yes. Overall, I think that's the future model when it comes to gaming. It's going to be Steam, through the Steam Deck, because of what Valve is doing now with their Stream Deck, and that's bringing, again, I don't know if it was Valve's intention to begin with or not, but I think they're really moving towards taking Microsoft out, because now with Valve, their Stream Decks are running Linux. So they've made a pretty good with Proton, a compatibility layer that you can run Windows games on Linux software now. And with that, it's making it so much easier for them to get away with doing this stuff. I think this is actually the future of the direction they're going to be going with it. Yep. They're the Devastator and Mr. Scott. Awesome. So I think that's exactly where they're going to do. That's exactly where they're going to go. It's great. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Let's see if I can get this to unstick again, because that happened the last time where it kind of jammed up a little bit, and then I can get it to correct. Okay, let's see a little bit more, and then, oh, that's not where I want.
Struggle to replicate its success. But that's another story for another time. All in all, I think Microsoft learned a very important lesson from the Xbox 360, one that the company arguably needed to learn in order to succeed. In 2005, Microsoft developed their new console with the exact kind of naivete you would expect from a software company. The Xbox wasn't just some program that you could rush to release and fix later with patches. It was hardware. And Microsoft's obsession with beating Sony to market and looking cool while doing it didn't almost just lose them the generation. It almost cost them the brand. Which probably explains why every subsequent Xbox has just been, well, a box. Sure, it's not pretty, but at least it doesn't... And I think it's also a testament to the company's mentality today. In the early days, Xbox was obsessed with separating themselves from Microsoft and cultivating an image that made them look cool and hip. But over the years, the company's had time to evolve and mature. And I think, eventually, they got to learn what truly mattered.
Game passes, microtransactions, data collection, the slow yet inevitable ratification of physical media. Microtransactions, game passes, layoffs, mass layoffs, microtransactions, game passes, microtransactions, data collection, layoffs, game passes, microtransactions, data collection, game passes, microtransactions.
So again, this comes from Slow Start. The description is for his channel and a link to the video that we watched is in the description. Go and check him out. I kind of like what he's doing there. I liked his video. It was pretty good. But this is where we're going to end the show. I'm going to raid you over to Iron Oxide's Ironcast over on Rumble, as he has started, and I will be joining him over there shortly. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Coming up on Saturday at 7 p.m. PST on my channel is insert title here. Then next Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST is Nerds Covering the News, and then right back here on Thursday at 6 p.m. for the next episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken. We will see you next time. Have a great rest of the week, and we will see you this Saturday. Have a great night.